Well, Congressman Thompson, thank you so much for joining Those Who Give a Damn podcast today, and super excited to have you on board today. We are living in some unprecedented times, and I thought we need a student of history like yourself and an advocate to really talk to us about our path forward. And so, Congressman Thompson, you know, I'm born and raised from your district and went to college in your district. And I understand so importantly how Pell Grants and all of the assistance that come from Washington really help us to go to school. I would have not went to Alcorn State University if it wasn't for a Pell Grant. Currently, we are seeing attacks on the 1890 National Scholars Program. Can you really walk my viewers through the impact of this program, the history of it, and why it's so important in this time that we advocate to keep this program around?
Well, I'm glad you asked me to do that, and I'm happy to be on the podcast to kind of help set the record straight, because there are some of us who do give a damn. Oftentimes, people who give a damn are not liked by the system, but I want to be right and not liked. So in that perspective, the 1890 Scholars Program was a program put together working with USDA and the Congressional Black Caucus and the 1890 colleges, which, as you know, were those land grant colleges that were left out original Morrill Act that created the white land grant colleges. So you look at the history, and there's a cadre of scholars that have always been overlooked. And so what we did, we created a program to bring those scholars into the system, but not burden them with debt. The other thing we did was make sure that they would be exposed to the internships at agriculture-related operations or institutions or what have you. So the moment they walk out of that college, they walk into a job. And so, as you know, that program has been moving along. I've met 2 classes of scholars at Alcorn. They're doing well. And this week, you know, we got this crazy email doing away with the program. But I'm happy to report is on yesterday, which was Monday, we got another email saying, oops, we made a mistake. We're going to reinstitute the program. But that's not how you run any program, helter-skelter. So we're glad that it's back, but it's just a small piece of the puzzle. And this was perceived as one of the diversity, equity, and inclusion programs that for some reason the Trump administration think is wrong. Well, when you look at the number of students who've gone to historically black colleges in general, if it were not for the opportunities for those students, many of them would not have gone to college. Myself included. So I want to make sure that the crop of students coming behind me have that opportunity to be the best that they can be. And part of it is creating the financial incentives for them to participate in so that they can go to school. And so I'm excited that the Trump administration saw the errors of their ways. And for whatever reason, we're not sure. Congressional Black Caucus, we did a letter with the other 1890 colleges that were impacted and did all that. And obviously, you know, one of the things in politics you're told is that if you mess with senior citizens or children, you're asking for trouble. So maybe they hurt.
Absolutely. And Congressman Thompson, you led me right into my next question I want to talk to you about. We understand we're living in a time now where the incoming administration is using that shock and awe system, seeing what sticks. And a lot of people wore out, and particularly young people, they're wore out. When I talk to young people across the country speaking, they are disencouraged about the political process. But one of the things that's interesting about your story, Congressman Thompson, is a lot of people don't know until recently that you campaigned for Fannie Lou Hamer, right? Like you. And so we were talking about that recently, and I was talking to some students in Mississippi, and it was like, we never knew that. I was like, absolutely. And it came up when you were getting honors, so did Fannie Lou Hamer finally got, you know, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And students started to make that connection, right? I want you to talk to young people about the power of how you open up, of giving a damn, a power of not being afraid to care about those issues, because that's been the landmark of your career.
Well, you know, there's a saying that goes that you're the sum total of your experiences. And for me, having interacted with Fannie Lou Hamer and a lot of other civil rights people early in life, it kind of set my path going forward. The seat I hold here in Congress, Fannie Lou Hamer ran for this seat at one point. And that kind of inspired me because I helped in her campaign, but I also participated in the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, and all those other engagements were made just to make a difference. So for the young people, you need to figure out what organizations you want to belong to. You want to make sure that those organizations are about making a difference wherever you are. So if you belong to a fraternity, sure, you need to understand the relationship between your other fraternity brothers or sisters, but you also say, well, we need to let people see us in a positive light. That means we need to be operating tutorial programs. We need to be seen in the community as something other than having a good time. And so I think that's part of it. The other thing is you have to always remember from whence you've come. You've done marvelous things, your career, but you've never forgotten Fayette, Mississippi, you know? For me, it's Bolton, Mississippi. It's my family, it's all of that. And I just think that for all of us, me especially, I want to always be that connection so that people can say, well, look at Bennie Thompson and see him as somebody who never left. And we spend a lot of time shaping young minds here in Congress, get them ready, push them out, go find some more young people, help get them ready, push them out. So we become the incubator here in Congress. So when I look at, and you can understand this, in the country, when people say, you know, what about so-and-so? That's, oh yeah, I helped raise that boy. I helped raise that girl. Well, I want to use that same analogy in getting young Black minds ready for the next level. And here in Congress, we do that all the time. I surround myself what I think are diamonds in the rough, and I work through making it happen. And most of them are graduates of historically Black college. In most instances, many of them are the first college graduates in their family. And so for them to be able to work in this environment, and the only challenge I say is, I want you to help somebody. I want you to make a difference. And I don't want you to take second seat to anything. And so we work every day on making a difference. But let me tell you, we get enemies on a regular. People call, make threats. They send emails, make threats. They want me to be the responsibility of why my district is so poor. But you got to understand, when James Eastland, when John Stennis was in the Senate, when Thad Cochran was chairman of appropriation, and every powerful politician in the Mississippi State Legislature was from the Mississippi Delta.
Absolutely.
Speaker of the House was from Issaquah County. The chairman of appropriations in the Senate was from Bolivar County. They sent money everywhere but to the districts they represented. John Stennis was chairman of the Armed Services Committee. They built military bases all over the world, and not one was in the 2nd District, because they were told, well, at that time, if you build a base, it would take too many Black people out of the field. And so my job is to try to turn that battleship around. But you know, the die had been cast a long time ago. And so we've been able to keep Valley State open. We've been able to keep Coahoma Community College. I had to sue in the Ayers case so that Alcorn could get some money and would not be treated all the time like a second-class institution. So Mississippi State, you know, is the flagship.
Right.
And Alcorn, good school, but the resources are not the same. We turn out good students, but it's unfair for those students not to have the same level of resources. So we try to make a difference. For this a challenge. And, you know, in this crazy environment we in right now in Washington, with the Trump administration, it's time for all hands to be on deck.
Absolutely. Now, I want to lead right into that, Congressman Thompson, to talk about budget. What is at stake as we look at the different budget cuts that Republicans are putting in place? Talk my viewers through what is at stake right now for the most vulnerable, not just in Mississippi, but all across rural America and inner cities across the country.
Oh yeah, there's no question. You know, our federal budget gives a baseline of support for any person in this country. That means if you are sick, there is a health-related program to get you well. If you are hungry, there is a program that is designed to feed you. If you are in need of housing, there are programs that can get you into affordable housing, either from the standpoint of rental ownership. So basically, the federal government plays a special role in the lives of its citizens. And so right now, that role is at risk. For instance, Medicaid. People think Medicaid is just for poor families. In Mississippi, in my district, the proportion county with the largest Medicaid expenditure is Madison County. Now, you and I know Madison County,
Exactly.
you and I know it's not a poor county. But when you find that there are a bunch of nursing homes in Madison County, and those nursing homes are being paid by Medicaid, you say, oh, so you know that $5,000–6,000 a month care in the nursing home is being picked up by the federal government. But that child that's on Medicaid gets an annual physical. You said, is that it? That's all the law gives them. And then if they find something with that in that child, you know, you take care of it. But basically, that's it. The other thing is Social Security. The majority of people in America, their single source of income after they retire is only Social Security, unless they happen to have a job with a 401k or a fixed retirement. But basically, you know, Democrats put Social Security in a long time ago, just so that people can have money old or when they retire. So now that's at risk because they're saying somehow Social Security is going broke. You know, Brother Malone, it's amazing to me, we've never had a Social Security check to bounce.
Exactly.
You know, I'm trying to say, now, if it's not broken, why fix it, okay? Now, the problem we have is we don't mean test Social Security. Folks say, well, what is mean test? I said, well, you know, we cut it off at a certain thing, but people still make more money, but they don't put any money in the system. And so over time, more comes out than comes in. And so over time, that is a problem. Now, the other issue is Medicare. Everybody, when they become of age, gets Medicare. And that's an insurance policy. And it's right for us to do it. But those programs are expensive, but they take care of some of the most vulnerable people in this country. At the point you are eligible for Medicare, your number one issue after your family is your health. Every day, you want to make sure that you're taking the right medicine. You go to the doctor, that if the doctor prescribes a prescription, you're able to get it filled. And that's because you got Medicare. In the richest country in the world, that should not be a problem. You know, we give millionaires and billionaires all kind of tax breaks, and we won't help senior citizens when they retire. So those three programs, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, are potentially at risk because they are attractive targets for the rich and famous because they can't hire lobbyists to come up here and talk to us in a survival mode. For people like me and other members of the Congressional Black Caucus, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, Progressive Caucus, all of us committed to pushing back as hard as we can. My district, to bring it even closer, I have almost 200,000 people in my congressional district who are on Medicaid. That's almost a third of my district. And that means that hospitals couldn't survive. That means a lot of doctors couldn't see patients without it. So we have to do it. And this Republican cabal that's in power now, and I call them a cabal simply because they messing up stuff. You got friends who work for the government. They got that crazy email talking about, you know, you got so many days to make a decision and send it to this email address you never knew existed before you got that email. And now they telling people who didn't send the email back, well, I need to know what you did last week and send me those 5 things and send a copy to your supervisor. Well, that's not the same email that I got before that you told me I could resign or send it in. So Elon Musk is having a field day, turning government upside down. And so many of the folk that he's going after were people who voted for him.
Absolutely.
Trump. And when they called my office, you know, we're going to help them just because they called. But I said, you know, but we also have to educate people.
Absolutely.
You know, and said, look, this man said he wanted to be a dictator for a day. He told you that. In the greatest democracy in the world, why would you vote for somebody who said they want to be a dictator?
Absolutely.
I just thought he was just talking.
And Congressman Thompson, one thing that I've been pondering and thinking about after the election is, a lot of people talked about the Democrats and our messaging, etc. But what you messaged just there, Congressman, to constituents, not just in our home state of Mississippi of the 2nd Congressional District, anywhere in any part of rural America can understand those 3 principles that you put out there. When we go back and look at Vice President Harris on the campaign trail and what's happening now in live time, right? The messaging was correct, right? People just ended up believing a falsehood and actually getting scammed, right? They just got scammed. We know that Donald Trump is the biggest scammer in American history, and they got scammed. When we look at things now, Congressman Thompson, to bring this home, I want to ask you this because I've heard this as I spoke around the country recently for Black History Month. You've had a long history in the civil rights movement. You've seen the arc of justice go back and forth, and it always tends to bend right? Always tend to be right. But there's a lot of people who listen to the podcast and watching today, and they don't know whether or not justice is going to prevail because they see all the lawyers lists. They just see how this government has established itself to almost form a dictatorship that they did not think would be possible in American history. Can you speak to that?
And I'll go to the back end, then I'll bring it forward. When people don't participate in the process of governing, and that's voting and casting an intelligent vote, you end up with a Donald Trump. And so now when this guy runs the biggest scam in America, take January 6th. I chaired the committee. He said that the people who broke into the Capitol were patriots. No, they were insurrectionists. But just like you said, if I repeat it long enough, somebody's gonna believe it. But we got to have the pushback. Now, part of the challenge was Kamala Harris had 90 days to run a campaign after Joe Biden pulled out. And those same folk who pushed Joe Biden into not running got to have part of the reason that Donald Trump is president. We've never had that happen. Our campaign with Kamala Harris was not about resources, but it was about message. And Donald Trump, to his credit and his team, that transgender ad ran all over the place. Not very little on network, but in every other medium of getting the word out, it was there. It was there. And then I was running into people who said, well, I don't want any of these transgender folk around me. I said, wait, you don't even know anybody who's transgender. What you talking about?
Even in D.C., Congressman Thompson, even right here in D.C., you on WHUR here in D.C., our local radio station, I heard the same thing. And I'm like, we are a liberal city in Washington, D.C. There's no reason why this ad should be here on WHUR.
Right. So they should have, the Harris campaign consultants, and they paid them a whole bunch of money. They should have responded to say, here are the issues. By and large, transgender individuals are still human beings, and we have an obligation to respect that. But more importantly, we want to educate everybody who lives in this country. We want to make sure they have health care. Want to make sure they have housing, and want to make sure that if they want to buy a dozen eggs, they don't have to pay $10 for that dozen. That way you can message this thing. But I think that was probably something that didn't help with the turnout, is the messaging. And then sometimes you got to go where the people you're trying to reach are. You can't tell them we on channel 3 and they on channel 4. So you miss it. And so that's why I think for such a time as this, in order for us to really have impact, we got to put a face on all this hardship that the Trump-Musk administration is putting on America and how it's embarrassing us all around the world. How are you going to say that the president of Ukraine is a dictator? Now, this man was popularly elected by his people. And then you're going to say Putin somehow is a good guy, and Putin is our sworn enemy. But if you let a guy like Donald Trump get elected, then that's what you end up with. And so now our friends all around the world are looking at us like we've lost our mind. So now you put this person in the White House who's saying all these nonsensical things, putting all these right-wing zealots in all these positions of importance. So we are compromising our international reputation. We're compromising our status in law enforcement, in the intelligence community. And so we had a member last week who disagreed with somebody in the Trump administration, and the U.S. attorney in the District of Columbia wrote him a target letter saying what you said about this person, we got real problems with. Now, see, those kinds of things show that it's a slippery slope between democracy and tyranny. So I can't even tell you what I think about you.
Right.
You know, our founding fathers are probably turning over in their grave right now, saying, you mean this separation of powers between executive, legislative, and judicial, all of a sudden under the Trump administration is just one. It's Donald Trump. And so he's there for better or worse. It's organized, it's mobilized, it's educated, so that the next election that comes, which will be a little less than 2 years from now on a national level, and we're only 3 votes short here in the House. And, you know, we lost areas that we should have carried on November 5th of last year. We can do it, but we got to get our people, as I said, educated, mobilized, and ready for battle. And trust me, people calling every day want to know what to do.
Absolutely.
The one problem I do have, and I'll lay it out here, now they want to know, well, why Hakeem is not doing this? Wait, he one man. He one black. Now, you know, but you're trying to, you know, bastardize the brother, but there's a Chuck Schumer who's on the other side in the Senate, and you ain't said nothing about him.
Absolutely.
So look, I'm a Democrat, but I'm a Democrat who understands reality. Now, Hakeem Jeffries is a great brother, doing a good job.
Absolutely.
And what we have to do is follow his leadership. You know, there's no penalty system in the black community to criticize another black person.
Right.
But we can do all this craziness. But when it's somebody else, we don't even mention it.
Exactly.
So it just boggles the mind. But I'm excited about his leadership. I'm committed to going anywhere in the country to help elect Democrats, because at least we understand on the Democratic side that people matter. It's women, it's men, it's everybody. It's the rainbow, you know? And the rainbow is a good thing. And so our challenge is to continue with that message and get us to turn to each other and not on each other.
That's perfectly said, Congressman Thompson. We're gonna end right there. We're gonna end right there. Perfectly said. Thank you so much for coming on Those Who Give a Damn. And I want to publicly say, as a son of your district, the 2nd Congressional District, I am a product of your hard work in the Congress. So many of my colleagues across the country. And so I want to publicly say, we thank you for your leadership, and we are 100 steps behind you, making the noise that we need to make, because we know that when we unify, we really can make a difference across the country. I really appreciate you for coming on today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you again.
All right.
Take
Take
care.
care, Congressman.